Hey guys, in this week's tutorial we're going to be working on a cute Incy Wincy Spider cake. This was inspired by two separate designs which I merged together, and I'll leave them linked below. I have my 6-inch cake already ganached and secured off centre on a drum. Tutorials for all the previous steps to get to this point are also linked below. Cover your cake in pale blue sugar paste, pulling out the pleats and securing it as you go. For a more in-depth look at this whole process, yes, you've guessed it, there is another tutorial linked below. I'm just cutting off the excess and creating a more defined bottom edge with the smedger and trimming it closer and closer with a scalpel until you have a nice neat bottom edge. Then take two flexi smoothers and give it a good rub all over before then sharpening the top edges by holding the two smoothers together at a right angle. Now create some grey sugar paste by mixing black and white paste together. We need this to be pretty sturdy, so I'm going to be using Tylo powder. It's best to learn how much Tylo powder to add by feeling rather than weighing. This is because Tylo powder will affect different pastes in different ways, and you also may need varying stiffness levels depending on the project you're working on. First, I'm dipping the whole ball into the tub of Tylo and kneading it in. As you can see, it's still a little bit too pliable to make a solid drain pipe out of, but this might be okay for modelling. So I'm adding it in for the second time. Now you can see it is far stiffer and it's taking more effort to pull the paste. So 2 dips in the Tylo did the trick. Find something cylindrical to use as a support for your drain pipe. I have got this old wooden rolling pin. Now I'm rolling out the paste and I'm just using this handy quilting ruler to measure out the height of my drain pipe. My cake is a little over 5 inches tall, so that is how high I'm cutting the paste. The width doesn't matter too much, as we will cut that down once it's on the support. Lay it over your cylinder and then trim it to size with a scalpel so it meets halfway on each side. Then cut a smaller piece of pipe. The size doesn't matter for this, as we're going to cut it down once it's on the cake. The spider topper, to keep it nice and light, I am using a polystyrene ball. Feel free to make yours out of Rice Krispie treats or another edible medium, but just note we are going to be sticking wires into it for the legs. Roll out some black paste and lay it over your ball. You can use piping gel or water to stick it, but black paste is generally already quite sticky, so I'm just teasing it up around the ball until it all meets and then rolling it in between my hands to smooth out the seams. If you feel any air bubbles, squeeze them into one spot and pop it with a pin or a scalpel and push the air out. Don't try too hard getting it smooth, as we're going to texture it. Insert a kebab stick through the centre to support it on your cake. Using a large star piping tip, I have a large Wilton 1M, which makes the job a little quicker, texture all round the bottom half of your ball. You can then place the kebab stick down the centre of the cake and continue to texture the top half. Marking a cute little smile with a Dresden tool. Texture a piece of light brown sugar paste to emulate wood grain, and then thicker individual lines with a scraper for separate wooden planks. With a scalpel, cut jagged edges in each of these planks and cut it down to size for a little wooden sign to hold the edge. Pop it face down on the foam mat to dry and secure a kebab stick on the back with water and a little tab of sugar paste to keep the stick in place. My drain pipe is now sturdy enough to handle, but still has a tiny little bit of wiggle to it, which means I should be able to still use water as a glue instead of royal icing, as it's not fully set. Dampen down the edges with water and then dust off any excess icing sugar from the inside with a nice soft fluffy brush. Stick this on the front of the cake towards the left. Then with your shorter piece, we want to try and join these together the best we can, so we need to make a curved cut. Here you can see the shape I'm cutting, where the curve comes in at the top, but it's still left long at the bottom. Butt this up against your drain pipe and keep cutting it until it fits. I'm also chopping the other end down so it isn't as long. To make this red brick colour, mix together white paste with red, orange and brown. Roll this out and use a brick texture mat all over the whole thing. Anything I use, I always try to leave linked below. Once you have a large brick area, trim it down to the height of your cake and cut a flat edge. Attach this to the left of the drain pipe just for a bit of extra detail. For the landscape, I rolled a long green rectangle and cut the bottom flat. The top I cut into a wave shape. I then rolled this up into a Swiss roll shape, and as I unroll it around the cake, you will see the hills bumping up and down. It's just attached with water. Trim it once you get to the brick wall on the other side. To soften that top cut edge, run the fatty part of your palm over it. Now I'm covering the board, which is a little bit like the toilet seat method, but in separate panels of a darker green. This is all going to be textured with a Dresden tool as grass, which makes it easy to mask any seams and joins. Cut out a small rectangle of blue paste and shove it inside the drain pipe for water. Again, texture it to look like it's flowing out. Continue all around the board until it's full of grass. Add little line details around your pipe with strips of grey. You can see how stiff the Tylo has made it. I can hold it and it doesn't even flop. Now take some wire for the spider's legs. I think this is roughly 20 gauge. Bend it and hold it up against the spider to see if it fits, and then bend 8 other ones in the exact same way. Start inserting one end of the wire into the spider's body and let the other end just rest on the top of the cake. Once you get all the way around and only have one leg left, insert your wooden sign in at an angle on the right and use the last leg to bend it around the sign so it looks like it's holding it. Roll out a sausage of black sugar paste, dampen the wire and then press the sausage down onto the wire so it embeds it in the centre. Then all you have to do is push the seams back together around the wire to hold it in place. Trim down the little feet and shape them. Just like the body, we don't have to be neat as we are going to texture it in the same way. This is pure sugar paste with no Tylo powder added. The wire is your support and the soft paste will blend together better. Any hard to reach areas when texturing can still be done with the Dresden tool. Eyes are super easy, 2 white circles, 2 black blobs for pupils and then tiny white balls for catch lights. I added 2 for extra cuteness. You can choose to leave the mouth as it is or make it more prominent with a small string of grey paste cut to size. Pink blobs of sugar paste for cheeks at each end. A little tip for making puffy shapes, roll out white paste leaving it quite chunky and lay over some cling film. Then take your cutter of choice, I'm using a cloud shape, press down firmly. The cling film tightens and creates a smooth puffy effect around the edges. Remove the cling film and then cut out your piece either with a scalpel or use your cutter again. Clean up the edges with your finger and you have a cute rounded shape. Here I'm doing the same with the sun. It kinda looks like a little egg yolk. Stick these to the front of your cake with water. Cut tiny triangles in 2 different shades of yellow and stick them around your egg yolk to then make it into a sun. I've also layered up some even smaller triangles in between. Space on my SD card ran out, so here we are with 2 little raindrops below the cloud, 2 black dots for eyes and pink ovals underneath them for cheeks. Then you can continue to finish them off with little smiles using a fine paintbrush and edible black paint. Add the edge to your sign. I use tappets, yes, which I have a tutorial for linked below. I think I might get that tattooed on my forehead. For cartoon leaves, roll a fat teardrop shape and flatten it in your hand. Then score down the centre with a Dresden tool and pull off little spikes to either side. Pinch the bottom together and then stick them around the base of your cake. Simple flowers are made by using 5 balls of the same colour. Flatten each one and then start overlapping them in a circle. Once you get to the one at the end, place it underneath the first one to complete the pattern. Mark in centres of the petals, stick it to your cake with water, and then add a yellow ball for the centre. Add a few around the cake in complementing colours. I also cut the name using tappets and simply stuck them down with water. As final details, I'm adding a few more tiny flowers to the board and we're done. This makes a nice change going back to basic nursery rhymes, which makes for a really cute toddler cake. Omitting the airbrush and shading on this one keeps its cartoon-like appearance, just like a children's book. I hope you enjoyed this one, something a little different. If you did, please leave me a comment below as I always try to read them, and if you fancy voting for the themes of upcoming tutorials, come and check us out over at the Cherry Brigade forum. Thanks guys, see you next week for another one.